Today, we're going to be talking about my favorite book. This is The Ethics by Baruch Spinoza. Baruch Spinoza was a 17th century Dutch philosopher. He was described as having a kind and gentle personality. He made glass lenses for telescopes and microscopes, and he lived a life of social isolation as a result of being an outcast from his communities because of his philosophical beliefs. In The Ethics, Baruch Spinoza lays out a logical proof for the existence of God, the meaning of life, and the secret to happiness. My goal with this video is not to convince you that Spinoza's logic is right, necessarily, but it will be fun to explore the ideas that he presents in this book, because the grandiosity of what he's attempting here is fascinating. And this book has affected my life profoundly. It has been a great source of spiritual guidance for me personally. I first, before presenting my own thoughts on the book and my own summary and interpretation of it, would like to read a summary of the book, in the form of just reading the propositions. That means I'm skipping over his logical demonstrations and just focusing on the core ideas. Still, there are hundreds of propositions in this book, and so it will take some time, and the propositions are not all easy to understand, and I would be very surprised if many people watched this and understood all of the propositions, but I'm going to read through it anyways, because afterwards, when we get to my summary and interpretation, I really want people to be able to judge for themselves whether or not I've interpreted the book correctly. I also want to give people the opportunity to really sink into the text and even possibly use this video as some kind of calming ambiance if listening to these teachings calms you down. So, without further ado, let's get into Spinoza's Ethics. And you are welcome to skip to the end of the video if you want to skip past this part. Part 1. Of God. Proposition 1. Substance is prior in nature to its affections. Proposition 2. Two substances having different attributes have nothing in common with each other. Proposition 3. If two things have nothing in common, one cannot be the cause of the other. Proposition 4. Two or more distinct things are distinguishable from each other, either by the difference of the attributes of substances or by the difference of their affections. Proposition 5. There cannot be two or more substances of the same nature or attribute. Proposition 6. One substance cannot be produced by another substance. Proposition 7. Existence belongs to the nature of substance. Proposition 8. Substance is necessarily infinite. Proposition 9. The more reality or being a thing has, the more attributes belong to it. Proposition 10. Each attribute of the same substance must be conceived through and by itself. Proposition 11. God, or the substance consisting of infinite attributes, every one of which expresses an eternal and infinite essence, necessarily exists. Proposition 12. No attribute of substance can be truly conceived from which it would follow that substance can be divided. Proposition 13. Absolutely infinite substance is indivisible. Proposition 14. No substance besides God can exist or be conceived. Proposition 15. Whatever is in God, and nothing can exist or be conceived without God. Proposition 16. From the necessity of the divine nature must follow an infinity of modes, that is, everything which can be comprehended in an infinite intellect. Proposition 17. God acts solely from the laws of his nature, and is not constrained by any other being. Proposition 18. God is the immanent and not the transient cause of all things. Proposition 19. God, or all the attributes of God, are eternal. Proposition 20. The existence and essence of God are one and the same thing. Proposition 21. All things which follow from the absolute nature of any attribute of God must exist always and exist infinitely. In other words, in virtue of the same attribute, they are infinite and eternal. Proposition 22. Whatever follows from any attribute of God, insofar as it is affected by a modification which in virtue of the same attribute has a necessary and infinite existence, must also have a necessary and infinite existence. Proposition 23. Every mode, the existence of which is both necessary and infinite, must necessarily follow either from the absolute nature of some attribute of God, or from some attribute affected by a modification, the existence of which is necessary and infinite. Proposition 24. The essence of things produced by God does not involve existence. Proposition 25. God is not only the efficient cause of the existence of things, but also of their essence. Proposition 26. A thing which is determined to any action has necessarily been so determined by God, and what is not determined by God cannot determine itself to action. Proposition 27. A thing which is determined to action by God cannot render itself indeterminate. Proposition 28. Every individual thing or anything which is finite and has a determinate existence cannot exist or be determined to action unless its action and existence be determined by a cause, which is also finite and has a determinate existence. And again, this cause cannot exist or be determined to action unless its action and existence be determined by another cause, which is also finite and has a determinate existence, and so on in infinitum. Proposition 29. There is nothing contingent in nature. Everything is determined by the necessity of the divine nature to a certain mode of existence and action. Proposition 30. An understanding in act, whether finite or infinite, must comprehend the attributes and affections of God and nothing else. Proposition 31. An understanding in act, whether it be finite or infinite, as also will, desire, love, etc., must be included under natura naturata, and not under natura naturans. Proposition 32. The will cannot be called a free cause, but only a necessary cause. Proposition 33. Things could not have been produced by God in any other manner, or in any other order than that in which they have been produced. Proposition 34. The power of God is his essence itself. Proposition 35. Whatever we conceive to be in the power of God is necessary. Proposition 36. Nothing exists from the nature of which some effect does not follow. This concludes part 1. We now begin part 2, which is entitled On the Nature and Origin of the Mind. Proposition 1. Thought is an attribute of God, or God is a thinking thing. Proposition 2. Extension is an attribute of God, or God is an extended being. Proposition 3. In God there is necessarily the idea both of his essence and of all things which necessarily follow from his essence. Proposition 4. The idea of God from which follows an infinity of things, infinitely modified, is sole of its kind. Proposition 5. The formal being of ideas has for its cause God so far alone as he is a thinking being, and not so far as he is explained by any other attribute. In other words, the ideas both of the attributes of God and of individual things have not for their efficient cause the objects or things perceived, but God himself, insofar as he is a thinking being. Proposition 6. The modes of any attribute have for their cause God, considered solely under that attribute of which they are the modes, and not under any other attribute. Proposition 7. The order and connection of ideas is the same as the order and connection of things. Proposition 8. The ideas of individual things or of modes not existing must be comprehended in the infinite idea of God in the same way that the formal essences of individual things or of modes are contained in the attributes of God. Proposition 9. The idea of an individual thing existing in actuality has for its cause God, considered not as infinite, but as affected by the idea of another individual thing existing in actuality, of which again God is the cause as affected by a third, and so on infinitum. Proposition 10. The being of substance does not belong to the essence of man, or substance does not constitute the form of man. Proposition 11. That which primarily constitutes the actual being of the human mind is nothing else than the idea of some individual thing actually existing. Proposition 12. Whatever happens in the object of the idea which constitutes the human mind must be perceived by the human mind, or the human mind must necessarily have cognizance of it. That is to say, if the object of the idea which constitutes the human mind be a body, nothing can take place in that body which is not perceived by the mind. Proposition 13. The object of the idea which constitutes the human mind is the body, or a certain mode of extension actually existing, and nothing else. Proposition 14. The human mind is capable of perceiving many things, and is the more capable in proportion as its body can be disposed in a greater variety of ways. Proposition 15. The idea which constitutes the formal being of the human mind is not simple, but composed of many ideas. Proposition 16. The idea of every mode in which the human body is affected by external bodies must involve at once the nature of the human body and the nature of the external body. Proposition 17. If the human body be affected by a modification which involves the nature of any external body, the human mind will contemplate that external body as actually existing or as present to it, until the human body be affected by a modification which excludes the existence or presence of the external body. Proposition 18. If the human body be affected by two or more bodies at once, when the mind afterwards imagines one of them, it will always remember the others. Proposition 19. The human mind does not know the human body, or know it to exist, except by the ideas of the affections which the body experiences. Proposition 20. There is also in God the idea or knowledge of the human mind, which follows in God and is related to God in the same manner as the idea or knowledge of the human body. Proposition 21. This idea of the mind is united to the mind in the same manner as the mind itself is united to the body. Proposition 22. The human mind perceives not only the affections of the body, but also the ideas of these affections. Proposition 23. The mind knows itself only insofar as it perceives the ideas of the affections of the body. Proposition 24. The human mind does not embrace an adequate knowledge of the parts composing the human body. Proposition 25. The idea of each affection of the human body does not involve an adequate cognition of the external body, which produces the affection. Proposition 26. The human mind perceives no external body as actually existing, except through ideas of the affections of its own body. Proposition 27. The idea of any affection of the human body does not involve an adequate cognition of the human body itself. Proposition 28. The ideas of the affections of the human body, so far as they belong to the human mind alone, are not clear and distinct, but confused. Proposition 29. The idea of any affection of the human body does not involve an adequate cognition of the human mind. Proposition 30. We can have only very inadequate knowledge of the duration of our body. Proposition 31. We can have only a very inadequate knowledge of the duration of individual things which are external to us. Proposition 32. All ideas, so far as they belong to God, are true. Proposition 33. There is nothing positive in ideas on account of which they can be called false. Proposition 34. Every idea in us which is absolute or adequate and perfect is true. Proposition 35. Falsity consists in the privation of knowledge which is involved in inadequate or mutilated and confused ideas. Proposition 36. Inadequate and confused ideas follow each other by the same necessity as adequate or clear and distinct ideas. Proposition 37. That which is common to all, which is equally in a part and in the whole, does not constitute the essence of any individual thing. Proposition 38. Those things which are common to all and are equally in a part and in the whole cannot be conceived otherwise than adequately. Proposition 39. Of that which is common and proper to the human body and certain external bodies whereby the human body is wont to be affected, and which is equally present in all their parts and in the whole, the idea which the mind has will also be adequate. Proposition 40. Whatever ideas follow in the mind from ideas which are adequate in it are also adequate. Proposition 41. Cognition of the first kind is the sole cause of falsity, but the second and third are necessarily true. Proposition 42. Cognition of the second and third kinds, and not that of the first kind, teaches us to distinguish the true from the false. Proposition 43. He who has a true idea at the same time knows himself to have a true idea and cannot doubt of its truth. Proposition 44. It is of the nature of reason to contemplate things as necessary and not as contingent. Proposition 45. Every idea of a body or of an individual thing actually existing necessarily involves the eternal and infinite essence of God. Proposition 46. The knowledge of the eternal and infinite essence of God, which each idea involves, is adequate and perfect. Proposition 47. The human mind has an adequate knowledge of the eternal and infinite essence of God. Proposition 48. There is no absolute or free will in the mind, but the mind is determined to will this or that by a cause, which is also determined by another cause, and this again by another, and so on in infinitum. Proposition 49. There is in the mind no volition, i.e. no affirmation or negation, besides which the idea, so far as it is an idea, involves. End of part 2. We now begin part 3, which is entitled On the Origin and Nature of the Emotions. Proposition 1. Our mind is both active and passive. So far, namely, as it has adequate ideas, it is necessarily active, and so far as it has inadequate ideas, it is necessarily passive. Proposition 2. The body cannot determine the mind to think, nor can the mind determine the body to motion or to rest or to anything else, if there be anything else. Proposition 3. The actions of the mind arise only from adequate ideas, its passions only from inadequate ideas. Proposition 4, nothing can be destroyed but by an external cause. Proposition 5, things are contrary in their natures, i.e. cannot exist in the same subject, when one can destroy the other. Proposition 6, everything, as far as in it lies, strives to persevere in its existence. Proposition 7, the effort by which everything strives to persevere in existing is nothing but the actual essence of that thing. Proposition 8, the effort by which each thing strives to persevere in existing involves no finite time, but an indefinite time. Proposition 9, the mind, both so far as it has clear and distinct ideas, and so far as it has confused ideas, strives to persevere in its existence for an indefinite period, and is conscious of this effort. Proposition 10, an idea which excludes the existence of our body cannot be present in our mind, but is contrary to it. Proposition 11, if a thing increases or diminishes, aids or restrains the power of acting possessed by the body, the idea of this thing increases or diminishes, aids or restrains the power of thinking possessed by the mind. Proposition 12, the mind strives as far as it can to imagine those things which increase or support the power or action of the body. The power of action of the body. Proposition 13, when the mind imagines those things which diminish or restrain the power of action of the body, it strives as far as it can to recall things which exclude the existence of the former. Proposition 14, if the mind has once been affected by two emotions simultaneously, when it is afterwards affected by either of them, it will be affected by the other also. Proposition 15, anything whatever can by accident be the cause of joy, sadness, or desire. Proposition 16, merely from the fact that we imagine a thing to have some likeness to an object which is wont to affect the mind with pleasure or pain, although that in which it is like the object be not the efficient cause of these emotions, we shall nevertheless love or hate that thing. Proposition 17, if we imagine a thing which is wont to affect us with pain to have some likeness to another which is wont to affect us with an equally strong emotion of pleasure, we shall at once love and hate that thing. Proposition 18, man is affected by the idea of a past or future thing which with the same emotions of pleasure and pain as by the image of a present thing. Proposition 19, he who imagines the thing he loves destroyed feels pain, but if he imagines it preserved, he feels pleasure. Proposition 20, he who imagines the thing he hates destroyed feels pleasure. Proposition 21, he who imagines the object of his love is affected with pleasure or pain, is also affected with pleasure or pain, and these emotions will be greater or less in the being who loves, according as either of them is greater or less in the being loved. Proposition 22. If we imagine a person as causing pleasure to the being we love, we shall love this person. On the contrary, if we imagine him as causing pain to the beloved being, we hate him. Proposition 23. He who imagines what he hates affected with pain feels pleasure. If, on the contrary, he imagines the same object affected with pleasure, he feels pain, and either of these emotions will be greater or less according as the contrary emotion is greater or less in the being he hates. Proposition 24. If we imagine any person as the cause of pleasure to a being we hate, we shall hate that person also. If, on the contrary, we imagine him as the cause of pain to the same being, we shall love him. Proposition 25. We strive to affirm of ourselves or of the being we love what we imagine as affecting us or the beloved being with pleasure, and on the contrary, we strive to deny that which we imagine as affecting us or the being we love with pain. Proposition 26. Of the object we hate, we strive to affirm everything that we imagine as causing him pain, and on the contrary, we strive to deny that which we imagine as causing him pleasure. Proposition 27. From the fact that we imagine a being similar to ourselves and towards whom we have hitherto felt nothing, to be affected with some emotion, we shall be affected with a like emotion. Proposition 28. Whatever we imagine will conduce to pleasure, we strive to further, but that which we imagine repugnant to pleasure and conducive to pain, we strive to avert or to destroy. Proposition 29. We try to do that which we imagine men will look at with pleasure, and on the contrary, we are averse to do that which we imagine they will dislike. Proposition 30. If a person has done something which he imagines will affect others pleasurably, he will feel pleasure in connection with the idea of himself as the cause. In other words, he will contemplate himself with pleasure. If, on the contrary, he has done something which he imagines will give pain to others, he will contemplate himself with pain. Proposition 31. If we imagine anyone either to love, desire, or hate something which we ourselves love, desire, or hate, we shall for that reason love, desire, or hate it with more constancy. But if we imagine that which we love to be repugnant to another, we shall fluctuate. Proposition 32. If we imagine anyone to delight in the possession of something which can belong only to one, we endeavor to prevent him from possessing it. Proposition 33. When we love a being similar to ourselves, we strive as far as possible that it may love us in return. Proposition 34. The stronger the emotion which we imagine the being we love to feel towards us, the more we shall glory in ourselves. Proposition 35. If we imagine the being we love united to another with the same or stronger bond of friendship than that which hitherto attached him exclusively to us, we shall feel hatred towards the beloved being and envy towards our rival. Proposition 36. He who imagines a thing which he once rejoiced to possess desires to possess it again under the same circumstances as when he first possessed it. Proposition 37. The desire which arises from pain or pleasure, from love or hatred, is strong in proportion as the originating passion is strong. Proposition 38. If anyone has begun to hate the being he once loved to the degree of entirely extinguishing his love, his hatred will be greater than if he had never loved this being, and it will be greater in proportion to his former love. Proposition 39. He who hates any person will try to injure him, unless he be withheld by the fear of a greater injury from him towards himself. And on the other hand, he who loves any person will try to do to him good according to the same rule. Proposition 40. He who imagines that he is hated by another, and does not believe himself to have given any cause for this hatred, will feel hatred in return. Proposition 41. If anyone imagines that he is loved by another, and does not believe himself to have given any cause for this love, he will feel love in return. Proposition 42. He who, impelled by love or by the hope of glory, confers a benefit on another, feels pain if he sees that his benefit is received without gratitude. Proposition 43. Hatred is increased by reciprocal hatred, but can be destroyed by love. Proposition 44. The hatred which is thoroughly conquered by love transmutes itself into love, and the love is greater than if hatred had not preceded it. Proposition 45. We shall feel hatred towards a fellow being if we imagine him to hate another fellow being whom we love. Proposition 46. If we have received pleasure or pain from any person belonging to a class or nation different from our own, and if the idea of this person under the general name of his class or nation is associated with this pain or pleasure as its cause, we shall love or hate not only the person himself, but all other people of the same class or nation. Proposition 47. The pleasure which arises from imagining that the being we hate is destroyed or visited with any other evil cannot exist without a degree of mental pain. Proposition 48. Love or hatred, e.g. towards Peter, is destroyed if the pain which the latter and the pleasure which the former involve is united to the idea of another cause, and either will be diminished, insofar as Peter is imagined not to be the sole cause of either. Proposition 49. Love or hatred towards a being we imagine to be free must be greater, in both cases from the same cause, than towards a being whom we imagine to be necessary. Proposition 50. Anything whatever can become by accident the cause of hope or fear. Proposition 51. Different men can be affected in different ways by one and the same object, and one and the same man can be differently affected by one and the same object at different times. Proposition 52. An object which we have previously seen at the same time with others, or which we imagine to have nothing but what is common to many, will not be contemplated by us for so long as one which we imagine to have something peculiar. Proposition 53. When the mind contemplates itself and its power of action, it experiences pleasure, and this pleasure is the greater in proportion as it imagines itself and its power of action with greater distinction. Proposition 54. The mind strives to imagine those things alone which posit or affirm its power of action. Proposition 55. When the mind imagines its own impotence, it feels pain. Proposition 56. There are as many species of pleasure, pain, and desire, and consequently of every emotion, which is composed of these, or which is derived from them, as there are species of objects by which we are affected. Proposition 57. The emotions of any one individual differ from the emotions of another, as much as the essence of the one differs from the essence of the other. Proposition 58. Besides the pleasure and desire which are passions, there are the emotions of pleasure and desire which belong to us, considered as active. Proposition 59. Among all the emotions which belong to the mind so far as it is active, there are none which do not resolve themselves into pleasure or desire. This concludes part 3. We now begin part 4, which is entitled On the Servitude of Man and on the Power of the Passions. Proposition 1. Nothing positive in a false idea is nullified by the presence of the true as true. Proposition 2. We suffer insofar as we are a part of nature, which cannot be conceived by itself in abstraction from other parts. Proposition 3. The power by which man perseveres in existence is limited and is infinitely surpassed by the power of external causes. Proposition 4. It is impossible that man should not be a part of nature and should suffer no other changes than those which can be understood by means of his own nature alone, and of which he is the adequate cause. Proposition 5. The power and increase of any passion and its perseverance in existing are not determined by the power with which we ourselves strive to persevere in existence, but by the relation between the power of an external cause and our own power. Proposition 6. The power of any passion or emotion may predominate over the other actions or power of a man, so that the emotions may pertinaciously adhere to him. Proposition 7. An emotion can neither be restrained nor destroyed except by a contrary and stronger emotion. Proposition 8. The knowledge of good and evil is nothing else than the emotion of pleasure or pain, so far as we are conscious of that emotion. Proposition 9. An emotion, the cause of which we imagine present to us, is stronger than if we imagined the cause not present. Proposition 10. We are more intensely affected by a future thing if we imagine it about to happen soon, than if we imagined the period of its existence to be more remote from the present. And we are more intensely affected by the memory of a thing, which we imagine to be recent, than if we imagined it to be long past. Proposition 11. An emotion towards what we imagine as necessary is, other things being equal, more intense than towards what is possible or contingent or not necessary. Proposition 12. An emotion towards a thing which we know not to exist in the present and which we imagine as possible is, other things being equal, more intense than an emotion towards what is contingent. Proposition 13. An emotion towards a contingent object which we know does not exist at present is, other things being equal, more languid than our emotion towards a past object. Proposition 14. The true knowledge of good and evil, considered as true, cannot restrain any emotion, but only considered as an emotion. Proposition 15. A desire which arises from the true knowledge of good and evil can be extinguished or restrained by many other desires, arising from emotions by which we are agitated. Proposition 16. A desire which arises from the knowledge of good and evil, so far as this knowledge has relation to the future, can be more easily restrained or extinguished by the desire of things which are agreeable in the present. Proposition 17. A desire which arises from the true knowledge of good and evil, so far as this knowledge regards contingent things, can be yet more easily restrained or extinguished by the desire of things which are present. Proposition 18. A desire that arises from pleasure is, other things being equal, stronger than a desire that arises from pain. Proposition 19. Every man, from the necessity of his nature, necessarily desires what he judges to be good, and shuns what he judges to be evil. Proposition 20. The more a man seeks what is useful to him, i.e., strives and is able to preserve his being, the more highly he is endowed with virtue or power, and, on the other hand, so far as a man neglects to preserve what is useful to him, i.e. his being, so far is he weak. Proposition 21. No one can desire to be happy, to act well, and to live rightly, who does not at the same time desire to be, to act, and to live, i.e. actually to exist. Proposition 22. No virtue can be conceived prior to this, namely, the effort to preserve oneself. Proposition 23. Man, so far as he is determined to any action by inadequate ideas, cannot absolutely be said to act from virtue, but only so far as he is determined by what he understands. Proposition 24. To act absolutely from virtue is nothing else in us than to act, to live, to preserve our being, according to the guidance of reason, on the basis of each seeking his own good. Proposition 25. No one strives to preserve his existence for the sake of another being. Proposition 26. All that we strive after according to reason is nothing else than to understand. Nor does the mind, so far as it uses reason, judge anything useful to itself except what conduces to understanding. Proposition 27. We know nothing certainly to be good or evil, except that which really conduces to understanding, or which can impede understanding. Proposition 28. The highest good of the mind is knowledge of God, and the highest virtue of the mind is to know God. Proposition 29. Any individual thing, the nature of which is altogether diverse from our own, can neither aid nor restrain our power of action, and in general, nothing can either be a good or an evil to us unless it have something in common with us. Proposition 30. Nothing can be evil through what it has in common with our nature. So far as it is evil to us, it is contrary to our nature. Proposition 31. So far as anything agrees with our nature, it is necessarily good. Proposition 32. So far as men are subject to passions, it cannot be said that they agree in nature. Proposition 33. Men can differ in nature so far as they are struggling with emotions which are passions, and so far one and the same man is variable and inconstant. Proposition 34. So far as men are agitated by emotions which are passions, they can be contrary to each other. Proposition 35. In proportion as men live according to the guidance of reason, they always necessarily agree in nature. Proposition 36. The highest good of those who follow virtue is common to all, and all can equally enjoy it. Proposition 37. The good which everyone who desires virtue follows for himself, he desires for all human beings, and the more in proportion as he has greater knowledge of God. Proposition 38. That which so disposes the human body that it can be affected in many ways, or which renders the human body capable of affecting external bodies in many ways, is useful to man, and it is the more useful, the more capable it renders the body of being affected in many ways, and of so affecting other bodies. And, on the other hand, it is hurtful in proportion as it diminishes these aptitudes of the body. Proposition 39. Whatever tends to preserve the relative degree of motion and rest in the parts of the human body is good, and on the other hand, that is bad which tends to alter the relative degree of motion and rest in the parts of the human body. Proposition 40. Those things which cherish human society, or which cause men to live together in concord, are useful, and on the contrary, those things are evil which occasion discord in the community. Proposition 41. Pleasure, directly considered, is not evil but good. Pain, on the other hand, is directly evil. Proposition 42. Cheerfulness cannot be in excess, but is always good, and on the contrary, melancholy is always evil. Proposition 43. Titillation can be excessive and evil, and bodily suffering can be so far good as titillation or pleasure is evil. Proposition 44. Love and desire can be in excess. Proposition 45. Hatred can never be good. Proposition 46. He who lives according to the guidance of reason strives as far as he can to compensate the hatred, anger, contempt, etc. of others towards him with love or generosity. Proposition 47. The emotions of hope and fear cannot be in themselves good. Proposition 48. The emotions of overestimation and contempt are always evil. Proposition 49. By overestimation, the man who is overestimated is easily rendered proud. Proposition 50. Compassion in a man who lives according to reason is in itself evil and useless. Proposition 51. Approbation is not repugnant to reason, but may agree with it and arise from it. Proposition 52. Self-contentment may arise from reason, and this contentment, when it arises from reason, is the highest that can exist. Proposition 53. Humility is not a virtue. In other words, it does not spring from reason. Proposition 54. Repentance is not a virtue. That is to say, it does not arise from reason. On the contrary, he who repents of a deed is twice miserable or weak. Proposition 55. Extreme pride or extreme self-deprecation is the extreme ignorance of self. Proposition 56. Extreme pride or extreme self-depreciation indicates extreme weakness of mind. Proposition 57. The proud man loves the society of parasites or adulators, but hates that of noble-minded men. Proposition 58. Glory is not repugnant to reason. On the contrary, it may spring from reason. Proposition 59. To all actions whereto we are determined by an emotion which is a passion, we can equally be determined by reason alone. Proposition 60. A desire arising from pleasure or pain, which belongs to one or several, but not to all parts of the body, does not relate to the good of the whole man. Proposition 61. A desire which arises from reason cannot be excessive. Proposition 62. So far as the mind conceives things under the guidance of reason, it is equally affected whether the thing be future, past, or present. Proposition 63. He who is led by fear and does good in order that he may avoid an evil is not led by reason. Proposition 64. The knowledge of evil is an inadequate knowledge. Proposition 65. Under the guidance of reason, we choose the greater good and the smaller evil. Proposition 66. Under the guidance of reason, we desire a greater good in the future, rather than a smaller good in the present, and a smaller evil, which is the cause of some future good. Proposition 67. The free man thinks of nothing less than of death, and his wisdom consists in the contemplation not of death, but of life. Proposition 68. If men were born free, they would form no conception of good and evil, so long as they were free. Proposition 69. The virtue of the free man is seen as much in avoiding as in overcoming dangers. Proposition 70. The free man, who lives among the ignorant, endeavors as far as possible to decline their benefits. Proposition 71. Only free men are very grateful towards each other. Proposition 72. The free man never acts with deceit, but always with fidelity. Proposition 73. The man who is led by reason is more free in society where he lives according to a common rule than in solitude where he merely governs himself. This concludes part 4. We now begin the final part, part 5, which is entitled On the Power of the Intellect, or Human Liberty. Proposition 1. According as thoughts and the ideas of things are ordered and concatenated in the mind, so precisely the affections of the body or the images of things are ordered and concatenated in the body. Proposition 2. If we disjoin an emotion or affection of the soul from the idea of an external cause, and unite it with other ideas, then love or hatred towards the external cause, as also the fluctuations of the soul which arise from these emotions, will be destroyed. Proposition 3. An emotion which is a passion ceases to be a passion as soon as we form a clear and distinct idea of it. Proposition 4. There is no affection of the body of which we cannot form some clear and distinct idea. Proposition 5. An emotion towards an object which we imagine simply, and as neither necessary, nor possible, nor contingent, is, other things being equal, the strongest of all. Proposition 6. So far as the mind recognizes all things to be necessary, it has power over its emotions. In other words, it suffers less from them. Proposition 7. Emotions which arise from reason are, taking time into consideration, more powerful than those relating to individual things which we contemplate as absent. Proposition 8. The greater the number of concurrent causes by which an emotion is excited, the greater will be the emotion. Proposition 9. An emotion which has relation to many and various causes, which the mind contemplates at once with that same emotion, is less injurious, and occasions us less suffering, and is smaller in relation to each cause considered separately, than another equally great emotion which has relation to one cause or to fewer causes. Proposition 10. So long as we are not agitated by emotions which are contrary to our nature, we have the power of ordering and concatenating the affections of the body according to the order of the intellect. Proposition 11. In proportion as an act of imagination embraces many objects, the more frequent it is, i.e. the oftener it is excited, and the more it occupies the mind. Proposition 12. The images of things are more easily united with images which have relation to what we clearly and distinctly understand than with others. Proposition 13. In proportion as an image is united with a greater number of other images, it oftener occurs. Proposition 14. The mind can bring to pass that all the affections of the body or images of things shall be connected with the idea of God. Proposition 15. He who clearly and distinctly understands his emotions loves God, and loves him in proportion as he understands himself and his emotions. Proposition 16. This love towards God must chiefly occupy the mind. Proposition 17. God is free from passions and is affected with neither pleasure nor pain. Proposition 18. No one can hate God. Proposition 19. He who loves God cannot desire that God should love him in return. Proposition 20. This love towards God can be contaminated neither by envy nor jealousy. On the contrary, it is heightened in proportion as we imagine other people united to God by the same bond of love. Proposition 21. The mind can imagine nothing, nor can it remember past things, except during the existence of the body. Proposition 22. In God, nevertheless, there is necessarily an idea which expresses the essence of this or that human body under the form of eternity. Proposition 23. The human mind cannot be absolutely destroyed with the body, but something remains of it, which is eternal. Proposition 24. The more we understand individual things, the more do we understand God. Proposition 25. The highest effort and the highest virtue of the mind is to know things by the third kind of cognition. Proposition 26. The more capable the mind is of knowing things by the third kind of cognition, the more it desires thus to know things. Proposition 27. From this third kind of cognition, there arises the highest possible repose of mind. Proposition 28. The effort or desire to know things by the third kind of cognition cannot arise from the first kind of cognition, but it may arise from the second. Proposition 29. Whatever the mind conceives under the form of eternity, it conceives not because it conceives the actual present existence of the body, but because it conceives the essence of the body under the form of eternity. Proposition 30. Our mind, so far as it knows itself and its body under the form of eternity, has necessarily the knowledge of God, and knows itself to be in God and to be conceived by and through God. Proposition 31. The third kind of cognition depends on the mind as its formal cause, so far as the mind itself is eternal. Proposition 32. Whatever we understand by the third kind of cognition, we delight in, and we associate with it the idea of God as a cause. Proposition 33. The intellectual love of God, which arises from the third kind of cognition, is eternal. Proposition 34. The mind is subject to those emotions which are to be defined as passions only during the existence of the body. Proposition 35. God loves himself with an infinite intellectual love. Proposition 36. The intellectual love of the mind towards God is that very love wherewith God loves himself, not so far as he is infinite, but so far as he can be explained by the essence of the human mind considered under the form of eternity, i.e., the intellectual love of the mind towards God is part of the infinite love wherewith God loves himself. Proposition 37. There is nothing in nature which is contrary to this intellectual love, or which can annihilate it. Proposition 38. The more things the mind knows by the second and third kinds of cognition, the less it will suffer from those emotions which are evil, and the less it will fear death. Proposition 39. He who has a body capable of a great variety of actions has a mind the greater proportion of which is eternal. Proposition 40. The more perfection any being has, the more it acts and the less it suffers. And conversely, the more it acts, the more perfect it is. Proposition 41. Even if we did not know our minds to be eternal, still piety and religion, and everything we have shown in the fourth part to belong to courage and generosity, would be the primary objects of life. Proposition 42. Blessedness is not the reward of virtue, but is virtue itself, and we do not delight in it because we conquer our passions, but because we delight in it, we are able to conquer our passions. this concludes Spinoza's ethics. When I describe the three main ideas of Spinoza's ethics, I describe them as follows. First, God is nature. Second, the meaning of life is to enjoy it. And third, the secret to happiness is helping others. So there you have it. The existence of God, the meaning of life, and the secret to happiness. These ideas might also be described as pantheism, hedonism, determinism. Pantheism is the idea that God is nature. Determinism, the idea that we have no free will, that everything is controlled by fate or nature. And hedonism, which is the belief that it is ethically good to pursue pleasure. Of course, these ideas are controversial, but in Spinoza's ethics, they are not optional. They are logically true. So let's go into the logic. First, God is nature. This is a question of definitions. The God that we're talking about here is not the God of any one particular religion, but rather the idea of God that all interpretations of God strive towards. This definition of God that I've encountered and which I find most useful is the idea that God is all-powerful, all-knowing, all-present, and all-good. If something doesn't meet these qualifications, not God. If something does, it's God, and nature would seem to meet those qualifications. This is a definition of nature in which nature is the universe. It's being itself. It is that which includes everything. If we're going with the word being, it is not logically possible for something to exist outside of being, because if it's outside of being, it doesn't exist. And so, we get at this idea of a universal substance, a thing which everything else is a part of and belongs to. And Spinoza argues that that universal substance must necessarily be God, because it's all-powerful. Nothing could be more powerful than that. And all good, because it is loving towards everything that it creates through its infinite power. And, of course, all present, because everything exists within it. So, actually, all-knowing, I forgot that one. All-knowing would include, because everything exists within it, it knows everything. I mean, it's like a giant mind, the universe, in which everything is a thought. We could see some similarities towards the philosophy of George Berkeley, very close to each other in the historical timeline, I think. Anyways, that is the argumentation for why God is nature. Going beyond that, simply just the idea that by definition, God and nature are identical. There is the idea that the meaning of life is joy. This is a more complex idea, even, than that weighty first idea, but it actually proceeds from this idea of pantheism, Because for Spinoza, life is a being's connection to God. Think about it. If a being exists, it is connected to existence. If a being exists within nature, it is connected to nature. It is participating through its own existence the life of that infinite source of life, God. And so every being wants to maintain that connection just automatically because it is participating the divine nature. And when we when we are able to prolong our own existence, that is power. Power is our ability to survive, and joy is the emotion that we experience when we grow in power. And so the meaning of life is to enjoy it, but hidden within this precept is a deterministic view of the world, because the meaning of life is to enjoy. It's not just good to enjoy because joy brings us closer to God. It is good to enjoy because we are programmed to believe that it's good to enjoy. God has placed this nature within us that makes us seek our own survival. And so whether or not we follow it is it's already determined. It's not just it's good because it's good. It's good because you are actually naturally programmed to want that anyways. That's just what everyone is going to be doing anyways. It is written and etched by God on our hearts, in our DNA, and we're just programmed to seek our own survival. And then from that, we can move beyond simply the hedonism of seeking temporary pleasures and into the wisdom of realizing that what actually is going to make us happy is helping each other. There's this wonderful little passage on page 240 here. Yes. Thus there is nothing more useful to man than man, nothing, I say, that man can choose more appropriate to the preservation of his being, than that all men should agree in all things, that the minds and bodies of all should compose, as it were, one mind and one body, all at once as far as they are able, striving to preserve their being, and all at once seeking for themselves what is a common good to all. That is Spinoza's portrait of an ideal society. It's something to strive towards, something that I think is very helpful in these times. In the past, when I read Spinoza, I saw in his work the foundation for a possible new universal religion. But in reality, I think the applications of Spinoza are even better than that, because they don't even need to necessarily challenge an existing religion too much. If we accepted the logic and truth of these ideas, or at least got thinking about striving towards a foundational, commonly accepted moral reality beyond our superficial religious or political differences, I think we might have a much better, healthier world. And thinking about these things can help us move closer in that direction. So Spinoza's work is not necessarily its own religion, but it's something that can function as a bridge between religion and science, between religions and other religions even, because it can serve as a litmus test for when our thinking becomes illogical or false. That is, of course, if you accept its logic, which you don't have to accept the logic, but at the very least, it is helpful to strive for logic and truth. Anyways, that is why Spinoza's work has moved me so much, and why I believe his work is so helpful for our times. A few words about Spinoza's legacy. Spinoza does not exist in a vacuum. His work is certainly influenced by Neoplatonist philosophy in late antiquity, but also his work bears striking resemblances to the Advaita Vedanta philosophy within Hinduism, which is interesting because he was writing this halfway across the world from India. So that's something interesting to think about. And then, even though Spinoza was ostracized and hated in his own time, 100 years later, philosophers started to warm up to him and realized that he was a genius. And he actually has become foundational in Western philosophy. He is called the Prince of Philosophers. He has influenced Hegel, Schopenhauer, Nietzsche, Marx, Deleuze, Fischer. So you can take his writing in a variety of political directions. You can see within his writing a divine order of the cosmos. You can make it compatible with Christianity. You can take it in a more pagan direction. You can see within his writing the will to power. You can see within his writing the more pessimistic aspects of a deterministic universe. And within that, a need for the kind of liberation through contemplation and meditation, through making peace with one's own emotions, like they do in Buddhism. But all that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a pleasant rest of your day. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And God bless.